Watch you niggas spoiling movies. Yeah. Brandon Collins, that's me. And Justin Brown for your movie needs. Media popcorn. Woo! You haven't seen it, well, we're gonna spoil it. Spoil it in your face. That's your warning. So if you get pissed, it's all your fault. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Medium Popcorn, and you are talking to Justin right now. And today I'm going to be giving you a review of the new Hulu documentary that's going to land on Hulu on March 21st. It's a Thursday. It's actually next Thursday, so set your clocks, baby. Called Freaknik, The Wildest Party Never Told. So this documentary, like I said, 21st of March, is a documentary about the Freaknik. And if you don't know what the Freaknik is, watch the documentary. You'll learn all about it. But to give you a short synopsis, Freaknik was kind of like an annual festival, or one might call it Black Spring Break. You know, this happened in Atlanta. It started in 1983 and went to about like 1999 when it was eventually shut down. It was a little bit different than some of the other festivals and things like that that's come before and after it, because it was really one of those word of mouth things. So actually, first of all, I had an interview with some of the people that were behind bringing this documentary to the streets, and if you want to watch that interview, you can actually find that over on the Medium Popcorn YouTube page. So go check that out there. And I was talking to them about how this feels kind of like Facebook, like the beginning of Facebook, in the sense that it started as a thing where it was for college kids, and college kids knew about it, and then slowly it started branching out. And as it branched out, it got a little crazy. Now everybody's, down there. You got 50-year-old people showing up at the Freaknik, and again, much like Facebook. But it's very interesting, and I got to say that this documentary is very interesting because it did something that a lot of the other, documentaries or just media that covered the Freaknik didn't do, which is it actually went into a lot of the roots of Freakniks and where it came from and everything like that. So basically, this was started by the HBCUs down in Atlanta, which is, historically Black colleges and universities, as basically like a spring picnic for those kids who couldn't get back home to wherever they're originally from. So, like, what are you going to do when you're just on campus? All the white kids go down to Daytona Beach or, the panhandle of Florida or something like that. And, Black people didn't feel like they had a space there or a place. And, listen, I remember when I was in college, I didn't go to those spring breaks because I never felt safe there. You know what I'm saying? It didn't feel like it didn't feel like it was a place for me. So that's what the Freaknik was. It started with, 50 college students just meeting up for a big picnic, and just like hanging out. Now, it's like, but why Freaknik though? We're some freaky shit. Who's popping ass out there? Wasn't like that, because the actual name came from the song Le Freak, and then they just put Nick at the end of it for picnic. So freak, picnic, Freaknik. Look at that. And, it just kind of grew from there. So much like I was saying earlier, this became a word of mouth thing. And over time, it just kept on growing and growing and growing until eventually it was just it was like the thing that everyone was doing, for all the Black folks were doing for, for spring break. Now, mind you, like this spread across the country, so people were flying in from L.A., New York, Chicago, Detroit, all to come to the Freaknik. Some of them were driving in from wherever they were, and not only was this just like college kids, at its height. When it hit in the '90s, you started having like celebrities were there. It was just it was just the black ass place to be, you know, and that's the thing about this documentary. It really explored a lot of the stuff that were going on with the Freaknik that I never knew. I knew that it was a big party, but I never knew exactly, where it came from, like, and also the intensity that it started to pick up, with its massive following. Um, so this doc is actually executively produced by a few names like Uncle Luke, which is kind of like synonymous with the word freak. Uh, so he had to be a part of this because actually he filmed a video down at the Freaknik, which kind of again blew it up even more. Jermaine Dupri. And then also 21 Savage. Now, 21 Savage, that one was kind of weird because I believe he's like born in like 93 or something like that. So I was kind of just like, why, why are we talking to this dude? He's 31. No, okay. He was born October 1992. So when the Freaknik was done, he was 7 years old. What you got to talk about? I mean, I guess I get it because obviously he's a very relevant artist to today, and then you're going to bring in some people, some of the today's youth and things like that, and I guess just his face, appearing in it. You'll get some residuals. People that sort of like, oh, was 21 Savage have to talk about in this documentary? But at the same time, it's like, listen, I'm 40 years old. I never got an opportunity to go to the Freaknik because, by the time I was just in high school when this thing got shut down. And this guy was 7 years old, so I don't know why he's there. But I mean, I guess it's just I find it a little bit weird. But it's a very interesting doc because speaking to the creators, they mentioned it's like, this is, a lot about the music. It's not just about the culture. But I feel like we all focus on the culture as opposed to the music because it just seemed like this was such a cultural event because, this was like, a black space for black people, for young black kids to go down there and enjoy themselves and whatnot. And like, I don't think we think about the music with it because, this festival was all over the city. Like, and a lot of it was like, the parking lot pimping, which is something that they spoke about in this because like Jalen Rose spoke about how they drove down from Michigan because he was in college, Fab Five. And they basically, people would like sleep in their car and just like, chill out and just bullshit because, a part of it was like showing off your cars, your new rims and things like that. Which then brought me to a thing that they spoke of, the rim shop. Now, this is something I've never heard of. So the rim shop was a space that was, I think they said Eric Sermon. If you don't know who Eric Sermon is, look him up. Rapper from back in the day. That he had where you go there, get your rims, and whatnot, and just chill out. But it seemed to be like the place where all of like Black Hollywood, the music, black music musicians would all go there and just like chill out, make music, just bullshit and just like enjoy themselves, which is I think is fascinating, and I'd love to see a documentary about that. But this also highlighted the fact it's like this began the rise of the Southern hip hop artists because of the fact that you had all of these people, these young people who are, the movers and shakers of the music industry, because, hip hop is, what's hot. And, the teenagers, the college students are going to make something hot or not. And as they're converging on this area, you had Jermaine Dupri, and he's pushing out some of his artists, and basically handing out tapes, and that's where like Outkast's really came from. So they had their mixtape, which we're talking mixtape, we're talking cassette tape, and passing it out to people, kind of like a sample, and that just became the thing. It's like it just started blowing up, and that's what blew Outkast up. And that's why Outkast became the group that they are, today. Well, not necessarily today, but they became the cultural freaking monster that they were, because it started at the Freaknik. So while the radio waves were dominated by, the West Coast, the East Coast, New York, and, LA, the Freaknik being in Atlanta allowed the Southern artists to actually be able to get their music played, or just get their music into the ear of the masses, which then took those, tapes, and then took them back home with them. And then boom, the music starts to spread like wildfire. So Outkast was, a big name before they became a big name. You know what I'm saying? And it's, again, it was so organic. And like, these are the things that you learn in this documentary, which is really cool, which just shows why why the Freaknik was so important for that time frame, especially just, for hip hop alone, because this was a way into the industry for a whole group, a whole section of the country, which really wasn't being heard at that time. Now, obviously, if you know anything about, this event, that there were some wild things that started to go on. It became, booty shaking and all of that. This is before twerking was a thing. And, things started to get a little out of control, towards, the tail end of it, because, as I mentioned earlier, it started with college kids, and then it started to branch out to just like, hey, this is just a place to be, and everybody's going, and you got 40-year-old, 50-year-old men just showing up to this thing, but the intentions of just having fun and enjoying themselves weren't necessarily there. And they saw Freak, they saw Uncle Luke, and they're just like, oh, this is where we go and rope women, or do some wild stuff. And obviously that stuff started to, to seep in, which is, listen, when it comes down to it, you have a huge gathering of people. There are going to be people there who's going to take advantage. And I'm not saying that it's okay. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm saying that there is an inevitability of some bullshit going on when you have people trying to have a good time, and then you have some people just trying to take advantage of that good time. And especially when you're talking about college kids, you have people who coming in and taking advantage of maybe a naivety, yeah. So it's which that also playing that playing a factor, along with like the 1996 Olympics being held down in Atlanta, and the city wanting to kind of clean up the city, to put its best foot forward for the Olympics on its way in. And and just kind of like, because the festival is a little bit more disorganized, those factors, together kind of brought the end of the Freaknik, which is funny because I remember hearing about the Freaknik when I was in freaking, middle school and high school, and we're just like, yo, when I go to college, we are going to the Freaknik. But again, never happened because I graduated high school in 2002. So by the time I went to college, it wasn't a thing anymore. So again, now you're right back to MTV Spring Break happening in wherever in Florida and wherever else they were doing it, and it just wasn't the same. And it just didn't feel like my kind of party. Um, but I got to say, like, I enjoyed watching this documentary and just like hearing from like some of the artists that are part of it, actually, and then some people who were down there, just enjoying themselves and whatnot. And it really took me back to a point in the 90s. And like, yes, I was young then, but like, the 90s were different, man. It was a different era. And growing up in New York, obviously New York to the South, especially in the 90s, it's it was very different. It was a different country. Well, the whole country was different at that point. But the Freaknik, it kind of exemplifies, kind of just like a really black event, which, because New York is a melting pot, like I never experienced, because, there was always a few white faces, or more than white, because, that's where the money was, for the most part, because, and also, too many black faces. Here comes the police, brick, brick, but this documentary just highlighted a time that I wish I was a part of. I know that the Freaknik, and also spoken about in the doc, is there was a revival that happened in 2019, where they made it into more like a music festival and everything by a guy, and it's never going to be the same thing. I don't think you can do that festival, the same way. But this is something that kind of lives in a time capsule, lives in infamy, and I don't think should be forgotten, especially because like this is one of the few times black people got to have space to kind of do their own thing and just enjoy their blackness. But I gotta say, like, I really enjoyed the documentary. Like, I felt like I learned a lot, especially timelines all lined up with just like the explosion of the Southern rap artists coming out, and and just like the way hip hop was like just really uh, just really changing and shifting at that time. So like if you were around in the 90s and of age, like about this, and and you can see how much this really played into the full scope of where we were at that time. And I think the documentary very much captured that feeling. And I thought, and like again, they got the camera don't lie. So that footage that they had out there, some people's out on Front Street. I mean, to be totally honest, there was nothing really too terrible. I mean, obviously the videos that probably someone was like, well, show me that video. Yeah, they ain't gonna show you. It's not in this documentary. That has to be the Freaknik after. That's Hulu After Dark if you want to see that kind of stuff. But this was a good one. This is a good one because outside of documentaries like this, we don't get to know about this stuff. Especially if you're a younger generation, you may never knew that the Freaknik actually was a thing. So I would say definitely go and check this out. A shout out to all the executive producers that worked on this, all the people that just kind of popped in and gave their piece on what was going on at that time and everything. But this is a good one. This is a good one. I enjoyed this documentary. I think you would enjoy it too. So that's why I'm going to give Freaknik, The Wildest Party Never Told, a large popcorn. So, guys, you know how you can do it. You can follow me at J Brown Did It on the socials, but you can also follow the show at Medium P Popcorn. I'm sorry, Medium P Podcast on the socials, and join us on Patreon, patreon.com/Medium Popcorn. We have $2, $5, $10, and $15 packages. Our entire backlog is on Patreon, and so if you want to see more Medium Popcorn, Patreon, where it's at, and of course you're here on Hulu, you're here on YouTube. So subscribe to the YouTube page so you can see more content here as well. All right, guys, appreciate you. Peace.